Talarian soldiers brutally murdered Max, Jason Griffin's innocent golden retriever, in a vicious attack meant to send a twisted message to Earth. But little did those alien bastards know, they had just unleashed humanity's wrath. Jason stared at the mangled body of his beloved pet, rage and grief threatening to tear him apart. This wasn't some damn accident during a routine inspection, as the Talarians claimed. It was cold-blooded, intentional slaughter. Max had been targeted by the very aliens who dominated the Galactic Council. Jason stormed into Commander Zephyr's office, the lead Talarian investigator, demanding justice. Zephyr sneered at him, dismissing the accusations. The alien made it clear, humans were nothing to the Talarians. Persist with these baseless claims, and there would be consequences. But Jason refused to be cowed. He took his case to the full council, laying out the damning evidence of Max's murder and the ongoing discrimination against humans. What followed was a stunning betrayal. Not only did the council reject Jason's appeal, they slapped Earth with harsh sanctions for daring to incite dissent. Every human ambassador was expelled. All trade and travel with council worlds was cut off. As Jason and his fellow humans were forcibly dragged off the council station, Zephyr openly gloated. The council's advanced fleet would effortlessly crush any resistance from Earth's primitive defenses. Humanity's very survival seemed to balance on a knife's edge. But Earth had a secret weapon, one even Jason hadn't known about. The head of Earth's space fleet revealed the truth to him in a clandestine meeting. For decades, hidden in the depths of the Kuiper Belt, Earth had been developing a formidable fleet of stealth warships armed with the most advanced weaponry humankind ever created. This was Earth's ace in the hole, the failsafe against alien aggression. And now, with the Council forcing their hand, it was time to unleash this secret fleet. As the mighty vessels powered up and headed for Council space, Jason found himself appointed captain of the flagship, the Retribution. His mission was crystal clear: confront the Council, secure justice for Max's death, and carve out humanity's rightful place among the stars, no matter the cost. With the full might of Earth's arsenal at his command, Jason set course for a reckoning with Zephyr and the Council. They had killed his dog and threatened his species. Now they would face the wrath of all mankind. This was no longer about a single pet, but the future of all humanity. And Jason would be damned if he let the Council take that future away. With Earth's secret fleet revealed and mobilized, Jason Griffin took command of the flagship vessel, the Retribution. The sleek, powerful warship thrummed with energy as it sliced through the void, leading a strike force towards a remote Talarian outpost. Intel suggested this facility held critical information about Talarian military capabilities and the whereabouts of key council leaders, including the despised Commander Zephyr. As the outpost came into view, Jason stood on the bridge, his heart made. His crew worked with focused intensity, preparing for the raid. "Lieutenant Novak, status report," Jason barked. "All systems green, sir. Stealth field holding. They haven't detected us yet," Novak replied, his fingers dancing across the console. Jason nodded curtly. "Good. Prepare boarding parties. We hit them hard and fast. Get in, get the data, and get out. Understood?" A chorus of "Aye, sir" rang out across the bridge. The Retribution and its companion ships closed in on the outpost. On Jason's command, they dropped their stealth fields and opened fire, precision laser strikes disabling the outpost's defenses before the Talarians could react. Boarding shuttles streaked from the Retribution's hangar bays, breaching the outpost's hull and disgorging heavily armed human soldiers. Jason led the charge, his plasma rifle at the ready. They swept through the corridors, neutralizing Talarian resistance with ruthless efficiency. Jason's team fought their way to the outpost's command center, where they discovered a trove of Talarian military secrets. As Jason scanned through the data, his eyes widened in shock. The Talarians were developing a new weapon, a doomsday device capable of targeting Earth's major cities from anywhere in the galaxy. If completed, it would give the Talarians the power to hold humanity hostage forever. Jason's team quickly downloaded the weapon schematics and sabotaged the prototype, planting explosives to destroy the Talarians' research. As alarms blared and Talarian reinforcements closed in, they raced back to their shuttles, dodging enemy fire. The outpost erupted in flames behind them as they blasted free, the Retribution and its fleet jumping to FTL before the Talarians could pursue. Aboard the Retribution, Jason pored over the stolen data, a grim realization settling over him. The Talarians had been planning this weapon in secret, hiding it from the rest of the Council. Armed with this evidence, Jason knew he had to act fast. He contacted the Galactic Council, demanding an emergency session to address the Talarians' treachery and the Council's mistreatment of humanity. But the Council stonewalled him, dismissing his demands. Furious, Jason made a bold decision. He would take the Retribution and a hand-picked fleet to the heart of Council space itself, to the massive central command station where the Council met. It was a risky gamble, but Jason knew it was humanity's only chance. As the Retribution dropped out of FTL near the command station, Jason hailed the Council. "This is Captain Jason Griffin of the Earth ship Retribution. I have evidence of Talarian crimes against humanity and the galactic community. I demand an immediate audience with the Council." The response was terse. "Request denied, Captain Griffin. Withdraw or be fired upon." Jason's face hardened. So be it. On his command, the Retribution and its fleet opened fire, surgical strikes disabling the station's defenses. As alarms wailed and the Council scrambled to respond, Jason led a boarding party straight to the heart of the station. They blasted through the Council's security forces, Jason driven by a cold, implacable fury. They burst into the Council chamber, weapons drawn. The Council members recoiled in shock and outrage. In the center of the chamber stood Commander Zephyr, his face twisting with hatred as he saw Jason. "Griffin," Zephyr spat, "you dare attack the Council itself? This is an act of war." Jason held up a data crystal, his voice ringing out across the chamber. "No, Zephyr. This is an act of justice. I have proof of your secret weapon, your plan to subjugate Earth and the rest of the galactic community. It's over." As Jason laid out the evidence, the other Council members fell into shocked silence. Many shot angry looks at Zephyr and the Talarian delegation, murmurs of discontent rising. Zephyr's face contorted with rage. In a blur of motion, he drew his sidearm and aimed it at Jason. "Damn you, human! You think you can dictate to us? The Talarians are the rightful rulers of this galaxy." Jason didn't flinch, his own weapon trained on Zephyr. Behind him, his team spread out, covering the room. The tension stretched, the air electric with the promise of violence. "It's finished, Zephyr," Jason said coldly. "Surrender now and the Council may show mercy. Fight and I'll end you myself. For Max." For a long, breathless moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, Zephyr lowered his weapon, his face twisted with impotent fury. Jason's team surged forward, disarming Zephyr and his guards, taking them into custody. In the aftermath, the Council was in an uproar. Many of the member races, long resentful of Talarian dominance, openly sided with Jason, demanding that the Talarians be stripped of their Council authority. Faced with the indisputable proof of Talarian aggression and the sudden shift in power, the Council had no choice. They voted to grant humanity full member status and to ban any further Talarian aggression against Earth or its allies. As Zephyr was dragged away in disgrace, the weight of the moment settled on Jason's shoulders. Earth had won a great victory today, but he knew this was only the beginning. The Talarians would not forget this humiliation, and Zephyr's schemes were far from finished. In recognition of his actions, Jason was appointed as humanity's senior ambassador to the Council. As he took his place among the galaxy's most powerful races, Jason made a silent vow. He would use his new position to ensure that no threat like the Talarians would ever endanger humanity again. And he would not rest until Zephyr faced justice for his crimes, for Max's murder. A new era had begun, with Earth as a rising power, and Jason Griffin as its champion. But even as the galaxy shifted around them, Jason knew that dark forces still lurked in the shadows, plotting their revenge. The war for humanity's future was a long way to go. But with Earth's secret fleet as a new shield and Jason at the helm, humanity would face whatever challenges lay ahead. For the memory of Max and for the future of all humankind, Jason would not fail. Jason Griffin stood on the bridge of the Retribution, his eyes fixed on the swirling gases of the distant nebula. The Talarian homeworld loomed ahead, a blue-green orb shrouded in orbital defenses. "All ships prepare for assault," Jason ordered. "Our target is Commander Zephyr. I want him alive." The fleet dropped out of FTL, immediately met by a hail of Talarian fire. The Retribution's shields flared as Jason barked commands, directing the counterattack. Human ships surged forward, their advanced weapons tearing through the alien defenses. "Sir, we've located Zephyr's position," Lieutenant Novak reported. "He's holed up on a moon base." Jason nodded grimly. "Prepare a strike team, we're going in." The Retribution's Marines assembled in the hangar bay, checking their gear as Jason briefed them. Moments later, their dropships screamed towards the moon's surface, evading Talarian interceptors. They touched down hard, immediately met by heavy resistance. Jason led the charge, his plasma rifle spitting death as they fought their way into the base. Talarian soldiers fell before the humans' onslaught. "There!" Jason shouted, spotting Zephyr fleeing down a corridor. They gave chase, cornering the Talarian commander in a dead end. Zephyr snarled, raising his hands in surrender. "It's over, Zephyr," Jason said, training his weapon on the alien. "You're coming with us to answer for your crimes." But as they secured their prisoner, Jason noticed strange containers lining the walls. His blood ran cold as he realized what they were. "What is this?" he demanded, grabbing Zephyr by the throat. "What sick scheme are you planning now?" Zephyr laughed, a harsh grating sound. "Insurance, human. The purifier will be our revenge. One drop, and your entire species is doomed." Before Jason could respond, an explosion rocked the base. Talarian commandos swarmed in, guns blazing. In the chaos, Zephyr made a break for a control panel. "No!" Jason shouted, diving for him. But it was too late. Zephyr slammed his hand down on a button, a wicked grin on his face. Then a stray shot caught him in the chest, and he crumpled to the floor. Alarms blared as containment systems failed. Jason watched in horror as a green mist began to seep from ruptured canisters. "Everyone out!" he roared. "Fall back to the ships!" They retreated, carrying their wounded, but some Marines were already showing symptoms, coughing and clutching their throats. Back on the Retribution, Jason pored over the intel they'd gathered. "We need to find this Dr. Krell," he told his officers. "He's our only shot at a cure." They tracked Krell to a hidden facility deep in a nebula. Jason led a small team to infiltrate the station, moving silently through its winding corridors. Talarian guards patrolled everywhere. Jason's team took them out with practiced efficiency, but it was slow going. Time was running out for the infected crew members back on the Retribution. Finally, they cornered Krell in his lab. The Talarian scientist sneered at them. "You're too late, humans. The purifier is perfected. Soon, your kind will be wiped from the galaxy." Jason's eyes narrowed. He spotted movement behind Krell, a small Talarian child, clearly the scientist's daughter. In that moment, Jason made a cold calculation. He lunged forward, grabbing the girl and putting his gun to her head. "The cure, Krell, now." Krell's eyes widened in fear. "You wouldn't..." "Try me," Jason growled. "Your life's work or your daughter's life. Choose." Krell's shoulders slumped in defeat. He handed over a data drive containing the purifier research and its antidote. As they raced back to their shuttle, alarms blaring behind them, Jason felt the weight of what he'd done, but there was no time for regrets. His crew was dying, and Earth itself might be next. The Retribution blasted away from the nebula, pushing its engines to the limit. In the med bay, doctors worked frantically to synthesize the cure from Krell's data. Jason stared out at the stars streaking by, heart made. They had the cure, but would they be in time? The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and the clock was ticking. The Retribution streaked through space at maximum warp, its engines straining under the intense acceleration. In the med bay, more crew members collapsed, their skin turning a sickly shade of green as the purifier virus ravaged their bodies. Jason paced the bridge, his eyebrows furrowed tight. "Status report!" he barked. Lieutenant Novak looked up from her console, her face drawn. We're approaching the outer colonies, sir. ETA 5 minutes. As soon as they dropped out of warp, Jason sprang into action. Get our medical teams planetside now. I want that cure distributed to every infected world ASAP. Shuttles launched from the Retribution, racing towards the stricken colonies. But as Jason watched the operation unfold, Dr. Krell's voice crackled over the comms. Captain Griffin, the Talarian scientist said, his tone grim, I have unfortunate news. Jason's blood ran cold. What is it, Doctor? Krell explained the devastating truth. The purifier strain they'd recovered was merely a prototype. The real weapon was far worse, a digital virus set to activate across Talarian networks at any moment. Shit, Jason muttered. He turned to his communications officer. Get me a direct line to the Galactic Council, now. Minutes later, Jason stood before a holographic projection of the council chamber. Counselors, we have a critical situation. The Talarians have... His words were cut off as alarms blared across the council's systems. Jason watched in horror as displays flickered and died, entire sections of the galactic map going dark. It started, he whispered. With no time to lose, Jason made a snap decision. Upload our cure to the Retribution's main computer. We're going to hack the Council's network. His team worked feverishly, fingers flying across keyboards as they attempted to breach the Council's formidable cyber defenses. On the main view screen, a virtual battleground unfolded, lines of code clashing as the Purifier virus spread like wildfire. We're losing ground, Lieutenant Novak shouted. The virus is adapting faster than we can counter it. Jason smacked his palm on a console. Keep trying, damn it. We can't... A new transmission cut through the chaos. Jason's eyes widened as a familiar face appeared on screen. Griffin, Commander Zephyr growled. Looks like you could use some help. Zephyr, but how? No time for questions. I have override codes that can give you full access to Talarian command systems, but I want something in return. Jason listened as Zephyr laid out his terms, amnesty for himself and his followers. As much as it galled him, Jason knew he had no choice. Deal, he said through gritted teeth. Zephyr transmitted the codes. Jason's team input them, and suddenly the tide of battle shifted. The cure raced through Talarian networks, engaging the Purifier virus in a pitched battle for digital supremacy. For agonizing minutes, the outcome hung in the balance. Then, slowly but surely, the darkness receded from the galactic map. The cure was winning. In the aftermath, Jason stood in the Retribution's medbay, watching as Dr. Krell embraced his daughter. Both had been cured, along with countless others across human and Talarian space. Zephyr approached, flanked by his rebel followers. I've upheld my end of the bargain, Griffin. Now it's your turn. Jason nodded wearily. You'll have your amnesty, but this isn't over, Zephyr. Not by a long shot. As Zephyr was led away, Jason turned to stare out at the stars. The Purifier crisis had been averted, but at what cost? The Galactic Council was in chaos, and tensions between humans and Talarians were higher than ever. Jason knew that this was just the beginning. A storm was coming, one that threatened to engulf the entire galaxy in war. And like it or not, he would be at the center of it all. The uneasy truce between Earth and the Talarian resistance crumbled like sand in a storm. Jason Griffin stood in his quarters aboard the Retribution, his face ashen as he stared at the gruesome package before him. Dr. Krell's severed head lay in a pool of congealed blood, its lifeless eyes staring accusingly. Jason's fists clenched, his nails digging into his palms. He strode out of his quarters, rage propelling him forward. The ship's corridors blurred as he made his way to the brig where Zephyr was being held. The Talarian commander looked up as Jason burst in. Griffin, what? Jason slammed his hand against the force field. You son of a bitch! Your people did this! He thrust a data pad showing images of Krell's remains at Zephyr. Zephyr's eyes widened in shock. By the stars! I had no part in this, Griffin. You must believe me. Prove it, Jason snarled. You want to keep your amnesty? Help us find these bastards and wipe them out. Zephyr nodded slowly. Very well. I know where they might be hiding. There's a fortified bunker on our homeworld deep in the Crimson Wastes. Hours later, the Retribution dropped out of warp above the harsh Talarian homeworld. Red dust storms raged across its surface, obscuring the landscape below. Jason stood on the bridge, ignoring the incoming transmission from the Galactic Council. Prepare assault teams. We're going in hot. Dropships screamed through the atmosphere, buffeted by howling winds. They touched down hard on blood-red soil, kicking up clouds of dust. Jason led the charge, his boots crunching on the alien terrain as plasma fire lit up the air around them. The bunker loomed ahead, a fortress of twisted metal and stone. Jason's Marines and Zephyr's rebels fought side by side, pushing through waves of fanatical defenders. The air filled with the acrid smell of ozone and burning flesh. They fought their way deeper into the complex, leaving a trail of bodies in their wake. Finally, they reached the central chamber where Admiral Kreshik and his inner circle were cornered. The Talarian leader sneered at them, his hand hovering over a control panel. One more step, and I'll activate the failsafe. We'll all die here, but at least we'll take you with us. Jason raised his weapon, every muscle tense. It's over, Kreshik. Surrender now. A tense silence fell over the room. Then, in a blur of motion, Zephyr spun and fired on Jason's team. Now, Kreshik! Chaos erupted as Talarian reinforcements poured in. Jason dove for cover, his heart pounding from the betrayal. Plasma bolts sizzled past his head as he returned fire, desperately trying to rally his scattered forces. Through the smoke and confusion, Jason caught a glimpse of Kreshik and Zephyr fleeing down a side passage. He gave chase, his lungs burning as he sprinted after them. The passage opened onto a hangar bay where a sleek Talarian ship waited. Jason emptied his weapon at the fleeing traitors, but they managed to board and take off. Retribution! Target that ship! Jason shouted into his comm. But there was no response. The battle had taken its toll on their systems. As the Talarian vessel streaked away, a horrifying realization dawned on Jason. The ship's energy readings were off the charts, far beyond anything he'd ever seen. "Oh God," he whispered, "they have a planet killer." Jason raced back to the Retribution, his mind working furiously. Their weapons were drained, their shields battered. There was only one option left, and it was tantamount to suicide. He burst onto the bridge, barking orders. "Set a collision course. We're going to ram them at transwarp." The crew stared at him in shock, but quickly moved to obey. The Retribution's engines roared to life as they gave chase. As they closed in on Kreshik's ship, Jason gripped the arms of his command chair. The faces of his crew, grim but resolute, burned themselves into his memory. In the final seconds before impact, time seemed to slow. Jason closed his eyes, and in that moment, he saw Max, his faithful companion from what felt like a lifetime ago. Then, in a blinding flash of light and energy, both ships collided. The resulting explosion lit up space like a newborn star, leaving nothing but scattered debris in its wake. In the vast emptiness of space, a few escape pods drifted silently, carrying the last survivors of a conflict that had nearly spelled doom for Earth and all of humanity.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.